You're listening to the Deep Purple Podcast, a fan podcast about one of the most legendary bands of all time, Deep Purple. We take a look at the music, history, and people behind the band Deep Purple and beyond. Welcome to the Deep Purple Podcast, the first and only podcast devoted to one of the greatest bands in rock history, Deep Purple. Today's episode is episode number 73, David Coverdale's Whitesnake, Snakebite. And coming to you from the nearly dying computer suburbs of Chicago, I'm your host, Nathan Beaudry.
And coming to you from Providence, John Swamp Meadow Matola.
Swamp Meadow. I don't know that one.
Now I'm just making them weird for the sake of making you laugh.
You could be making them up for all I know.
Yeah,
Swamp
it could be.
Meadow.
Yeah.
Oh, I see that it's in Foster, Rhode Island.
Mm-hmm.
No school, Foster,
Cheater.
Gloucester. Hey, I'm
Cheater.
Googling it. So what is it? What's the deal with Swamp Meadow?
It's the only remaining covered bridge in Rhode Island.
Ah, the bridges of Providence County.
I didn't realize there was a covered bridge in Rhode Island.
Yeah, I didn't realize there were any. I didn't realize there were any covered bridges.
New Hampshire or down in,
Vermont,
Pennsylvania.
probably.
Amish town,
Amish country.
Yeah, I can make fun of the Amish. They won't be listening to this, right?
No, they hate Deep Purple. They listen to other podcasts. They listen to the We Don't Like Zippers podcast. Their favorite podcast is Only Buttons. Yeah, my computer, man, it's doing okay, but I've got this very odd
what's going on?
This odd issue where I'm trying to install a second hard drive, which I've done a million times. It should be easy, but somehow some of the boot sector on Windows is on a drive that Windows is not on, so my computer won't boot without that drive. So I'm desperately trying to figure out how I tried doing a repair on Windows, and I just can't figure out how to get it working properly. So that's why we need more patrons so that we can try to raise some money for a new computer. This computer should be okay, but I am dangerously low on hard drive space. So really
best of luck, because without your computer, there is no Deep Purple podcast.
No, my computer has got it all. So I'm down to about 40 gigabytes on my main audio drive here. So I might have to leave that old drive attached for the time being and just hook up my new drive some other way and be able to record onto it. But we'll see. That's what 73 episodes of the Deep Purple podcast does. It fills up a hard drive. All right. So if you want to keep up to date on the show, please make sure to subscribe in Apple Podcasts. If you want to support the show, which we would love, join our Hall of Heroes and our list of patrons. That'd be very much appreciated. And you can also leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. That would be greatly appreciated as well. So speaking of our patrons, we have at the moment the $25 Super Trooper tier. Steve Seaborg coming to us from the Cayman Islands, the PayPal Cayman Islands of podcast donations. At the $20 Shades of Deep Pockets tier, Ryan M. At the $15 Highball Shooter tier, no one. It's vacant currently. At the Turn It Up to $11 tier, Alan Begg. At the $10 Someone Came tier, Richard Fusey via the Caymans as well. At the $5 Money Lender tier, we have Clay Wambacher, Greg Sealby, Frank Teelgard Mortensen, Mike Knowles, John Convery, Arthur Smith, and German Heindel. And at the $3 Nobody's Perfect tier, Peter Gardeau, who is just messaging me as we were sitting down to do this and showing me a picture of some Dymo labels he found in his garage, which will... By the time this episode airs, I'll be like, oh my God, I forgot I had done that. That was so long ago. Ian DeRosier, Mark Roback, and Anton Glaving. And at the $1 made up name tier, L's Murders, Spacey Noodles, The Ghostly Leaky Mausoleum, and of course, Michael Vader. And that's our patron list for today. Thank you so much to all of you for donating and helping support the show. And of course, we would be nowhere without our brothers at the Deep Dive Podcast Network. Riot Sabbath Bloody Podcast is putting out some great new Aussie content. The Simple Man at Skinner Reconsidered, who's trucking along with Skinner, moving on soon to the final Skinnerd album of the first 5, and Terry T-Bone Mathley at T-Bone's Prime Cuts. And thanks, especially for this episode, to York Planer, the patron saint and archivist of the Deep Purple Podcast, for giving us so much great information, as always. And hey, a reminder, as of recording this, it was recently Tommy Bolin's birthday, so make sure to donate to the Tommy Bolin Memorial Statue Fund. Get a statue of the man for his birthday. It would be greatly appreciated. So, this week, I hesitate to say this could be a shorter episode because that usually never happens whenever I say it.
I know,
But
right?
the content is certainly shorter this week, in that we're covering the Whitesnake Snakebite EP, which is only 4 songs. So what's your how do you remember this? Because it's probably very similar to me, but what's your memory and your take on the Snakebite EP?
I think that I like came to it afterwards because like I got all into Whitesnake like all mixed up.
Sure,
Because
yeah.
as we've discussed before, because of our generation, I knew Whitesnake from the 80s. And then when I got into Deep Purple, I got into Whitesnake in the 70s. And I don't even remember what my first Whitesnake album was, but I had to work my way to figure out what even the first Whitesnake album was, which is it's still kind of confusing. But I mean, this was one of them that, if I am not wrong, there was this awesome place in Pawtucket called Luke's Records.
Oh, yeah.
And this place was great. I can still picture it. It was one of those record stores you walked into, and it was just like had this low ceiling because they had all like t-shirts and bandanas and all stuff hanging off the ceiling, just like wall to wall, like records, CDs, t-shirts, posters, like just this. It was just like a haven for all that stuff. And of course, like used cassettes, and that was one of them that was in there, was the Snakebite, which, if I'm not wrong, was probably the like extended version, like the one that we're not reviewing today, because it has the 4 songs on it from North Winds that we already know and have reviewed. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't have any strong memories associated with it. You know, it was like my first, say it was like my first Whitesnake or whatever. It wasn't, but
Yeah, I was
that's kind of boring.
well, I was kind of confused by it as well, thinking it was because in America, I guess we'll get to that in a little bit, but in America, it was kind of marketed as the first Whitesnake album because, like you said, they took 4, it's very odd, they took 4 brand new songs from newly formed sort of proto Whitesnake, and then they took 4 songs from North Winds and just jammed them onto one album, and it was an LP instead of an EP. So that's why I was always kind of confused, thinking that this was the first album. And then, like I said, we were confused already because when we had North Winds and Whitesnake, they were all jammed together on the one CD. So you had the songs, and then you were like, wait, these songs sound familiar. And it was really messy, but it was also messy even at the time. Whitesnake doesn't have so much of a definitive start date as some other bands might have. It was Coverdale did solo for a couple of years and a couple albums. Then this is kind of like an intermediary branch or bridge, I should say, between this and then the first album, Trouble.
Right, because when he was doing this, wasn't he still essentially like David Coverdale with these other musicians?
Well, in the UK, it said David Coverdale's Whitesnake. That's the name of the EP, and that's the name of the band. It was David, kind of Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow.
Yeah.
Um,
So it kind of progressed like that, because I always wondered where that kind of began. Like, how did it? Like, I'm wondering if we have any info on that as to when it became like officially just Whitesnake.
I think it would have been with Trouble became just Whitesnake, and I think a lot of that too has to do with the record execs and who's marketing it more so than even maybe the band. But this wasn't really the lineup that would be thought of as that first Whitesnake lineup. So um,
Right.
it's still kind of, I mean, it's almost there because you've got Bernie Marsden joining and all this sort of stuff. But yeah, it's definitely a different. It sounds like they're not quite at Whitesnake yet, and they're still coming off of that David Coverdale solo stuff, which is just fine with me because I love that David Coverdale solo stuff. And you'll have the drummer on this EP, David Dowell. I think I'm pronouncing his name right. He's a session drummer, and he'll be on the first Whitesnake album, the Trouble album, and then Ian Paice joins, and that's it. But on this, you also do not have John Lord in the group yet. You have another keyboard player who we'll get to in a moment. So, so this band got thrown together. On bass, we've got Neil Murray. Who have we even talked about Neil Murray before on this show? I'm trying to think.
I think so. Wasn't he? Didn't he play with Coverdale already, or wasn't he on North Winds, or was that?
I don't think he was on North Winds. I think so. He was in. He was in Coliseum 2. He was in Babe Ruth with Bernie Marsden. He played. So I think those are a few of the groups he might have been with before he joined Whitesnake. But I don't think we've covered anything that actually had Neil Murray on it before. So it just feels like Neil Murray. He's such a fixture to this scene that it feels like we would have talked about him so far. But welcome, Neil Murray. Welcome to the Deep Purple podcast. So Neil Murray joins. David Dowell, like I said, he was really a session guy. He played in Brian Auger's Oblivion Express. And I'm pronouncing that the way it would be pronounced from my French Canadian town. I don't know how it was actually pronounced. And then he played in Streetwalkers. He replaced Nico McBrain in Streetwalkers, which is kind of interesting. Guitar, Bernie Marsden joins us. We've covered his background in the Pace Ashton Lord episode. On guitar, Mickey Moody, who we've also covered before because he's coming to us from the Coverdale stuff. And on keyboards, Pete Solly. Again, I've only ever read these names and never heard anyone say them. So this is his only contribution to Whitesnake. After that, John Lord joins for Trouble, and then it's John Lord from there on out for a while. And Peter Solly played with bands called Paladin, Snafu, Fox. He played with Pat Travers, Procol Harum, Reckless Eric, which I like. Sounds like a berserker Viking or something. And then later on, he went to do production. He was a producer for Oingo Boingo, Motorhead, and Peter Frampton. Quite a wide range of different acts. And then he went to do. He had a pretty good career doing commercial jingles. He wrote commercial jingles for British Airways, Coca-Cola, and BMW.
So he went the way of JLT for a little bit.
Yeah, I wonder if he ever worked with JLT. That'd be great to have a crossover hit with composition by Peter Solly and vocals by JLT.
So it sounds like this guy has really kind of been all over the place. He wasn't like he just showed up and then was just gone forever. Like he just was never.
Yeah, I think
popular.
He was. I think like David. I mean, he's got a ton of credits, but I think like David Dowell, he's probably just like mostly a studio guy, And you get these studio guys in to do the album, then they end up kind of joining the band. But sometimes studio guys are like, no, I don't really want to do the band thing. I want to continue doing my studio work. So it's probably where it happened from there. So this group gets together, and this newly formed group, they were supposed to play their first show on February 23rd, 1978. Neil Murray confirms in Martin Popoff's book Sail Away that this show never happened. So sometimes people say that it did, but Neil Murray says it didn't. I guess he kept some very meticulous details and diary of all this stuff. In early April, they get together in London to start rehearsing. And then from the 7th of April through the 13th, they go to Central Recorders to record the Snakebite EP. And Bernie Marsden explained that the reason they were doing an EP is because the record company wouldn't commit to an album, which is unusual since Coverdale had already done 2 solo albums, but he puts a group together and they don't want to commit to it. So he said they had a friend. Bernie Marsden said they had a friend at EMI, Robbie Dennis, who was a fan of the band, but his boss wouldn't let him sign them. But Bernie says he credits Dennis with having a huge part in the Whitesnake story and eventually getting them signed and seeing them go on to great success. And then this EP was released June 2nd, 1978. Martin Popoff does talk in his book, in his Sail Away book, about kind of how it's kind of like we're talking about is how confusing the whole Whitesnake is. When did it start? When did it end? You've got David Coverdale having an album named Whitesnake, 2 words, and then he starts a band named Whitesnake, 1 word. He's got a song called Whitesnake. He's got David Coverdale's Whitesnake. Then it turns into the regular Whitesnake, and there's all these. Here we are between his solo album and this EP and the first album, having all of these lineup changes already. So, setting in motion what would be a pretty much perpetual revolving door in Whitesnake for years to come. So
yeah, pretty much. They never really had for a few years they had a solid lineup in the early days, but that was about it.
Yeah, it definitely didn't stay super solid. So looking at the cover, the Whitesnake cover for the Snakebite EP is very simple. It's just a white cover. Says Whitesnake on it, which is kind of the traditional Whitesnake font for those early years. David Coverdale's Whitesnake, Snakebite, and then these 2 little boop, teeth marks with little blood dripping down them, and that's it. On a white background, no frills.
Yep, that's it.
There's nothing else. I kind of like it. It's very simple.
Yeah, I was gonna say I like it for the simplicity and the the colors. I always think like red and white, or red, black, and white together are very like striking.
It looks great.
And it's not the cover that I first got. Like with the cassette, I had, of course, I think, like, if I can remember right, there was like a picture, like a live picture of Coverdale singing. And then there was like this orangish, like checkered, like, part beneath it with the picture of like the cartoon of the snake, which is on the album there. And it was just really, it was that typical bargain bin looking cassette look, it was like probably reissued like, a bunch of times over, completely away from the original concept. So I wasn't attracted to it at all. Like if I saw this, I would have been more intrigued,
Yep.
But this, original artwork is actually pretty cool for how simple it is.
Now this is the EP as it would have appeared, and it was printed originally on white vinyl. They did about 15,000 copies.
That is cool.
And it's funny because on the vinyl is this really great, which you recognize from the Whitesnake EP, that picture of the snake, which is awesome. And it's very funny that they'd have this really elaborate picture of a snake on the label for the record, but have such a plain sleeve for it.
Yeah.
So I guess they did, from what York tells me, they did 15,000 copies in this white. And then after that, they did a pressing on black vinyl. And that's even a little bit more rare because they didn't do as many copies of that one. I found this exact thing on eBay just the other day, and I had to order it. I said, you know what? It was super cheap. It was like $12 or something. So I said, I'm going to order this so I can have the original Whitesnake EP.
I was going to say, for my money, I would go after the white vinyl because that's pretty cool looking.
And there's only 15,000 out there. Well, 15,000 were made. I'm sure a lot of them do not survive. And in Europe, I know in the Netherlands and a few other countries, they would end up doing another version of this, which is what we were used to with the tracks from Northwinds. And this was the cover, which is kind of like this film reel live footage of the band playing with a picture of Coverdale singing there. And, a little bit more elaborate, but kind of cool looking cover. And then...
No, that's pretty neat. I think that would be a cool live album cover.
Yeah, it looks awesome. And then the one we are used to is the one you were talking about here. So.
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, I kind of think that's stupid. To be honest, that's the
It
one that I
looks,
remember.
it's one of those, it reminds me of like the reissues of the Mark I albums where they just,
Yeah.
they put the real album cover in like a little corner somewhere and they just do all this dumb stuff around it. So it's like this is like a snake on a red background with a weird orange and purple mountain range way in the background.
Well,
And
yeah, it's
then
like, so Whitesnake goes to Arizona or some shit. Like,
maybe, but it's like red. It's like the colors are really weird and there's like no texture to the ground. It's just red background. There's a weird square behind it on the ground, which I have no idea what it is. There's Coverdale with a microphone in a little
just
square, and then it's got the white. It's like he's like in a cube because it's like it's very
not
odd.
not a great picture of him either. He's just kind of
No.
just nondescript. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
you
yeah,
got to
this
just
is
be like,
it.
if you're gonna put a picture of me on an album cover, maybe pick a better picture. There's been, how many thousands of pictures of Coverdale over the years, and the photography on that previous one was actually partly by Finn Costello, which is no surprise as he was photographing everything. But the back of this, the CD version, otherwise it says songs 1 through 4 produced by Martin the Wasp Birch, so he's bringing his A game if he's the Wasp.
Yes, the Wasp.
And then songs 5 through 8 produced by Roger Glover, so not a bad dual, not a bad split between the producers there, between Birch and Glover. But yeah, this is how I would have been used to this album. And again, it was, the album seemed a little schizophrenic, much like the Whitesnake North Winds one did before it.
Well, yeah. I mean, like we were saying before, it's we had no we had no friggin' idea what album was what or what belonged on what album. Because I remember I got this one, and I'm like, are these the same versions of these other songs that are I already know, or did he re-record them, or like I couldn't even tell. I'm like, or why are these the same, or like, is this even, what is this album? Like, is it a greatest hits with 4 new songs? Like, it was very confusing. I don't think it's until Trouble that we kind of get a little consistency.
Yeah, and then they start to actually put out proper albums and just the way that you normally would. So yeah, it was a very weird. It was weird that it had such a rocky start too, given the fact that you're dealing with some, you're dealing with Coverdale, you're dealing with some great musicians. It seems like it would have a more of a firm start, but indeed it did not. So that's it. Do you should we get into some of these tracks here?
All 4 of them, yeah. A big whopping 4 tracks.
Whopping 4 tracks, which starts off. Actually, I have these in like a weird order here. For some reason,
like, what's the original order? Even do I even know what the original order is, or am I going to be surprised?
Yeah, I'm going to just double check the order because I have mine in a really weird order here. Just making sure that they're right. So yeah, it should be Come On and Bloody Mary on the first side, and then Ain't No Love in the Heart of the City and Steal Away on the second side.
Sounds about right.
Let's just double check that because if we're gonna go with the original artwork, we want to make sure we're doing it right. But Snakebite EP,
we're purists that way.
We certainly are. No, this one says on the original one, like here, it should start with Bloody Mary and then Steal Away, and then Ain't No Love in the Heart of the City and Come On at the end.
Okay, I'm down.
So yeah, so that must be the way. So let's do it. I'm gonna have to jump around a little bit, but we're gonna start off with Bloody Mary.
When you waltzing down the high street, singing that sweet French perfume song, looking out for the boys who could sing along.
Now, very Coverdale solo feel to it here.
Yeah, very much like what you would hear, like the good time, good feeling songs you'd hear on North Winds.
And this one was written by Coverdale alone.
Yeah, you can tell this still definitely has like solo Coverdale vibes to it.
When you talk dirty to me.
This is yet another example of if you could take somebody that only knew of the '87 album on Whitesnake and play this for them, their heads would explode. My wife has no love for like the '87 Whitesnake stuff, but I have played her this stuff and she loves it.
Wow, okay.
And this is where Coverdale shines with great songwriting and just being surrounded by great musicians just doing their thing. Like he says, handing off those chord charts to the guitar gods and worrying about the vocals.
Oh, nice solo. Got a nice groove and bass back there on Neil Murray.
That's great. How do you not love that? I think I got my my tracks wrong here, so on the sheet, I'll have to.
You know, well, they're all mixed up, but that's okay.
Yeah. So we'll just do that. So, all right, I changed the first one up here. So, I don't know. How would you rank? How would you rank Bloody Mary?
That's a strong start to the David Coverdale's Whitesnake EP. I'll give that a 4. That's that would be right at home on a Coverdale solo album, one of the rockers.
Yeah.
Like you said, he surrounds himself with these, really good musicians. Of course, the Wasp is producing. You know, you can hear some great bass back there. The guitar solo is really melodic. What's not to like?
Yeah.
And of course, Coverdale.
Coverdale's you can't beat Coverdale.
He's the slam dunk right in that.
All right. So a 4, yeah. I'm gonna have to give that a solid 4 as well. It's a very enjoyable opening track in classic Coverdale style. It's a great one. Okay, next up we have Steal Away, and this was written by Coverdale, Moody, Marsden, Murray, Sully, and Dowell. So everybody pitched in for this song. So that's always good. And this is Steal Away.
So this was probably something they jammed on or something.
Slide guitar. That's Moody.
Now when the day is done, I'll find you, woman, and run. Don't ask no questions and you won't get no lies. And if you steal away, I'll be your only lover. And I will love you till the day that I die. And if you steal away, I'll turn your night into day and get you crying like a dog for a bone. And if you say you will, I'll be your only lover. And if you go, I'll never leave you alone.
Bernie Marsden says there's syndrums on this, which are very early synthetic drums.
Oh, right, in the breakdown part, I remember that. Yeah.
Said they were new at the time, and soon after that, everyone would be using them.
Now, woman, don't be shy. I see that look in
I always thought this song had kind of a different beat to it.
Riding all those toms.
Yeah, like they could have done something more straight ahead with the drums, but didn't. It kind of makes it different, you know?
Really bluesy feel to this song.
Oh yeah, that's definitely because it's like hardcore slide. And good slide.
Yeah, and he's not laying off the slide either.
Oh yo, voice box.
Is it a talk box?
Talk box, sorry.
Oh, there they are. Looks like watching a nature documentary from when we were kids.
I remember hearing this and just being like, why is Whitesnake going disco here? Like, what is that?
Here, Coverdale breathing. Very interesting production choice. Not what you'd expect from this.
Oh, not at all. Well, like you said, those were a new thing at the time, so they were probably like, yeah, let's throw them in.
Let's throw them in the middle of the song for no reason.
Oh well. In the middle of this like traditional like rock slide guitar.
Especially on such like a down-home bluesy song to just it's an odd choice. Can't imagine the Wasp involved with that either.
Well, it's like, oh, we need a hit. Maybe this will get played at Studio 54. We don't know.
Riding that slide.
All the way home.
Steal away. What do you think?
I'm gonna give this a 3.5.
All right.
I mean there are a lot of good elements to it, but it's just not doing it for me. And it's those friggin' syndromes. Like I just never liked them in there. I always thought it was a weird choice. I thought it took away from the song. And even though the beat, you know, the timing was interesting, I thought it like a different, you know, they could have written the drums differently. Like, I mean, I kind of like that kind of like drum march, you know, marching beat type thing they did all the way through, but it never kind of propelled or took off. So it's like, I thought that kind of did the song a little bit of disservice. But, you know, that being said, like when you hear the intro, that sounds to me like something you would just like crank up like on your analog stereo and just wait for it to like crank out. But then when it does, you kind of get that, you know, drum beat, and then it's kind of like, you know.
Yeah.
So it was just okay.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 3, I think, for all the reasons you said. And it has that, it's one of those songs where you're waiting for it to go to another place, but it just repeats that kind of over and over again. It's really cool slide work. It's really interesting. The synth drums I always like when you just kind of do something different from a production standpoint, but they're almost silly being thrown in there like that. Which I'm also not always against. Sometimes that really works, but it just seems odd. It like kind of Marsden alluded to, it just sounds like, well, they were new, they were around, they had them in the studio. I'm like, well, you know, we got to throw these in a song somewhere because we have them.
Right.
Kind of one of the advantages nowadays with music production is you have you always have everything at your fingertips and can use whatever you want. So there's kind of some that can paralyze you sometimes because you never know what to do, or you always want to change things up or try different things. But on the other hand, you don't maybe aren't as apt to say, oh, here's a new trick, let's use it.
Right. I mean, I could get that. Maybe they were in the studio and they're like, hey, there's this new thing. It's like, because I mean, that's kind of a cool idea to like, because I mean, I know I've done it too, is like, hey, let's have this,
Mm-hmm.
think of it that way, this bluesy rock song. And then we have these kind of new, kind of far out, like almost outer space sounding drums. Like, let's see how these two sounds will play against each other. And unfortunately didn't really age well, like, or go together, in my opinion.
But who listens to that and says, oh yeah, those sound like drums? Like, there's nothing drum like about them. Boo, 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 boo. Like, I don't know what the heck they sound like, but I wouldn't hear that and be like, oh yeah, I guess it's like any early synthesis. You'd see like, oh, these are synth strings, and you're like, oh, is that what they were going for? I just thought it was just a weird noise.
I mean, does it sound like when the ball bounces off the wall in Pong or something? Like,
It doesn't sound like,
boo, boo, boo. You know,
it sounds more like that than
or like
any drum I've ever heard.
Yeah, but I think you're right. I think you use the word goofy or silly sounding, and it's just like, that's kind of what it sounds like a little bit. Plus, something with the drum beats, when you have that repeating, the drum beat, when you have that repeating na 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 na, it sounds kind of like goofy.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just the whole song was, I gave it a little higher rating because it's not a bad song, and the slide work is definitely good, but all that other stuff just took away from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fair enough.
Not one of the strongest, you know. Unfortunately, it's only like 4 songs, so it's not like you could have like 8 other songs redeem it or anything. So, or something.
Well, that being said, let's see how the next song redeems it, and that's "Ain't No Love in the Heart of the City." And this is, of course, a cover of a song first recorded by Bobby Blue Bland.
Ain't no love in the heart of the city. Ain't no love in the heart of town. There ain't no love, sure enough is a pity, babe. There ain't no love, 'cause you ain't around, baby, since you've been around.
This is Coverdale just in his vocal element here. Is just, his vocals in the song are so good.
Ain't no love in the heart of the city.
The song was written by Michael Price and Dan Walsh, 1974.
Yeah, this is really good version of it. It's really well played, recorded. Coverdale sounds great.
Marsden says that to this day, people still think this is a Whitesnake song like that Whitesnake wrote. And they take their own stamp on it.
Well, because it's got those bluesy elements to it.
Well, it seems so strange.
Yeah, it doesn't. Whitesnake was really good. Coverdale was really good.
Things have changed.
And maybe
Yeah, like
it's
you
on
could-
his
you could-
own. Like, it doesn't sound like he's trying to cover. It sounds like it's his song.
Well, yeah, like this would fit in with like any of his ballads, like Blind Men or.
To the county line, and that's why there ain't no love.
So you could tell like where his style came from. But that's good when like a band or an artist can cover a song and like people can mistake it for their own. And that means he really kind of made this his own.
Martin Popoff said in his book that they used to use this song to audition new members into the band, which happened quite a bit. So they would play this song with them to see how they fit in. Marsden.
Now listen, every place that I go, well, it seems so strange. Without your love, baby, baby, things have changed. But now that you're gone, you know the sun
Nice little
don't
tasty
shine
bass run there by Murray.
from the city hall, woman to the county line.
You know what the song needs?
No, it does not need that.
This is a great little breakdown here too.
Yeah, I mean, the rhythm section is really locked in on this too. They're doing a lot of interesting stuff in the background. His little slide. All right, we gotta stop. We're like ruining it.
How could they have heard this and been like, we don't know if we want to give you a full album deal?
Who the hell knows?
You always read those stories too, like here's the record producer who said the Beatles would never amount to anything. He turned them down.
As he's like hiding his face in shame.
They parodied that in the Ruddles. They showed some guy like an
Idiot
around his neck or something because he turned down.
She went around. 'Cause she went around.
I like those keys at the end. I wonder what he's using there. Ain't no love in the heart of the city.
You know, I'm wondering how that song would have sounded if you had Paice and Lord on there.
Well, I'm sure there's a
Especially
live version
John
out there.
Oh yeah, but I mean the studio version. I mean that was pretty good. I mean,
Oh, well, are they both on the you know, they have the live in the heart of the city?
I think so. Yeah.
Are they both on that one? They must be
think
both
so,
on that
yeah.
one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jorg, you don't have to send us a nasty note. We'll look it up right now. He's never nasty. He's always very very polite. He very politely
unnasty.
tolerates our our lack of knowledge. But yeah. So you would have had Paice and Lord on that one.
Mm-hmm.
So, and did they do it? Are they? Maybe they don't do that song on the album, Live in the Heart of the City. Oh,
That's the name of the damn album. Practically is the song.
yeah, it's not on there. That's funny.
Hey.
I don't think I've ever heard that album. I'm familiar. I know the album cover because it's such like a cool looking iconic album cover. But yeah, they don't do it. That's a shame. They do it. There's a live at the Hammersmith where they do it. Anyway,
Interesting.
what do
Okay.
you think about Ain't No Love in the Heart of the City?
4.5 for this one. Really good song. I always considered it like not a ballad because you know what I mean. Like a ballad's like a love song or whatever, but this was like a good like ballad-ish type song. Like I always love this one because it's like, yeah, this is a great like Whitesnake slow song. But I mean, for everything that I said throughout the song, it's just really like well played, and Coverdale sounds great. The guitar solos are good, and it sounds like you said, like a Coverdale song. Like, surprised he didn't write it.
Well, we've been batting around the idea of doing this episode where we're going to do it as a bonus episode, hopefully soon, where we kind of give some impressions of some songs that we really love that have nothing to do with Deep Purple. And this really reminds me of one of the songs that I've chosen to bring to that episode, which I'm not going to tell you about now because you'll have to wait for the bonus episode.
Yeah.
It just evokes that same feeling. And I'm going to give this one a 5. because
I
I
kind of
always
knew that.
always thought this was a really just has such a great feeling to it, and it's just done so well and with such passion. And you'll see on Trouble when they do. I normally, you know me, normally I do not care for when they do covers on, especially on albums. To do a cover of another band's song, it's just like, ugh. Most 9 times out of 10, I just think it's a horrible idea. But on the first album, they'll do a cover of Day Tripper, which again,
Mhm.
not to get too far ahead of ourselves, I feel like they make it their own. You know, they make it sounds like a Whitesnake song, even though it's a very faithful cover. They put enough little twists into there where it keeps it really interesting, and I feel like it works on the album. Where so often I don't dig that, and I don't think it works really well.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
he just had a way of doing that. So Ain't No Love in the Heart of the City leaves us with
Mm.
only one more track, and that's our final track on this EP, and that's Come On.
Like that really dirty guitar sound.
That beginning reminds me of that Joe Walsh song, Life's Been
Oh,
Good
yeah.
to Me So Far. When did that song come out? Let's see.
I don't go looking for trouble. It's
Same
always
year.
come
Ooh, I wonder which came out first.
This one. We got to be on Coverdale side.
Well, it was April, so I don't know when this one came out. So
You welcome my day.
Joe Walsh one came out in May, so it's possible they were just completely independent, but they sound so similar.
Give your man some rock and roll.
Yeah, this is just a cool, laid-back Coverdale rocker.
Yeah, it's great.
Like, I love the verses.
I'm just a soldier of fortune.
Oh,
Must be
See
the
what he did there?
Soldier of Fortune. Oh, Gypsy.
I ain't alone when I say I never needed love.
He didn't say he's been mistreated. What's going on?
Hear me singing, come on. Come on. Give your man some rock and roll.
It's a great riff.
Get yourself
Yeah.
some sweet rock and roll.
Murray's just killing on the bass.
Oh, yeah, the bass on this EP is great.
This was written by Coverdale and Marsden. Marsden said this is the first song that he and Coverdale ever wrote together.
Nice wah-wah guitar solo there.
It sounded like Neil Murray was doing something like Bob Daisley-ish, like something you'd hear on one of the first 2 Ozzy albums.
Yeah.
Singing, come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Give your man some rock and roll. Give your man some rock and roll. Come on and get some sweet rock. Come on and get some sweet rock. Come on and get some sweet rock and roll. Must be the gypsy in me. See the angel in you.
What was he talking about exactly?
And I almost think this song is the beginning of the, like, proper Whitesnake sound.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like that was almost like the, you know, when you read the end of a chapter and then you open up the new one, you know, this is like the one where it's like,
Mhm,
and then there's Trouble, and then the rest of Whitesnake. Like,
It's
this
like the
sounds
little cliffhanger.
Yeah,
and he
yeah,
couldn't believe
exactly.
what he saw. Oh no, I gotta go to chapter 3 now. See what happened.
But yeah, no, that's a really good song. Like that sounds very much more like Whitesnake-ish. Like there was a couple of things that sounded more Coverdale solo. This was kind of in between a little bit.
Well, that makes sense because
Um,
it was written by, like you
yeah.
talked about with Steal Away. I think you said it sounds like, what was this, maybe just a jam that everyone was doing, and
Hmm.
the fact that it was written by all those people didn't really play out with the song. It just sounded,
Yeah.
it did sound
Like
kind
a
of just like a
jam.
jam. Like one of the, somebody, Mickey Moody or whatever, started something on that slide guitar and everyone just joined in, and Dave Dowell did the thing on the with the toms, and maybe that's why they credit it to everybody. But this is the first song that you hear where Coverdale and Marsden, which is kind of just the songwriting tour de force along with Moody, going into Whitesnake. So it stands to reason
Hmm.
that would be that bridge.
Yeah. So
Cool.
4.5 for me.
All
Great
right.
song.
Thinking I'm giving that one a 4 for sure. It's really, really great one. Loving it. So that's it for the tracks on that. And oh, you know what? I haven't even
Wow.
you got to see how that comes out. Let's see, Whitesnake, Snakebite, and then let's see where this takes us. There's our scores. That scores very, very highly.
So where are we? Snakebite.
And
Oh yeah. See now.
kind of an asterisk on this one because there's only 4 tracks, and God,
Right. So
if what's the name there? If Steal Away had done better, this could have been one of our highest ranking albums ever.
yeah. So I mean, 8.13. That's pretty high. I rated it a little higher than you. So
You rated a
that's
4.13, and I got a 4.0 even.
mm-hmm. So yeah, like you said, that's what do you say, asterisk there, because it's only a few songs as opposed to a lot of songs. But let's see, where are we? Where is Snakebite? There you are.
Right in the middle.
Yeah, Snakebite's right in the
Oh
middle.
well, it's towards the top, but
Yeah, but a little below We Are the Music and Captain Beyond,
mm-hmm.
and I'm sorry, a little above, and a little below both Made in Japan's and North Wind's, oddly enough,
Mm-hmm.
Machine Head. So yeah, I would say like that notwithstanding, that's kind of got an unfair advantage, I guess you could say, in the rankings. But it was a pretty decent EP. It's not something that I go back and revisit a lot. And I don't know, honestly, with the Northwind songs on it, it's kind of like it feels, I don't know, kind of cheap.
Well, yeah, it's
And
just stitched together. I love North Winds and I love these
I love
songs, but it's
Northwind's on
just,
its own.
yeah. And I
Northwind's on
like to
its
listen
own.
to full. I know a lot of people like to put things in shuffle and things like that. I really like to listen to full albums, and I mostly wouldn't put this on just because I'm like, it's only 4 songs, so I'd have to put something on right after it, or put something else in the queue right after it. But it would be a good thing
Right.
to put on Snakebite and then go right into Trouble after that, and just have their playlist going that way.
Or if you had like an early Whitesnake playlist, this would obviously rotate through really fast.
Mm-hmm. Yep, but good stuff. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
really strong. It makes you kind of wish that the record company had supported a full album, because just weird EPs are a weird middle ground for me. Like I've never really understood the point of the EP, and certainly not a point really these
No.
days. But
Yeah, but
I think the point is
back
kind of like what they said, is the record company won't support a full album. It's like, if you don't have enough material for a full album, or if you don't have the time, or you can't do it, you don't have the finances, you put out an EP. But to me, I'd rather just have something between an EP and one of these hour-long album CDs like we've been talking about recently. Having something that's at least 35 minutes long is a little more preferable for me.
yeah.
So
Yeah, but all in all, a good little collection.
for sure. When this came out, so Marsden said there was a 5th song for this EP called The First Time, but it was lost and has never resurfaced. So it'll be
Okay.
interesting to That's what he says anyway. I'm waiting for Jorg to listen and say, oh, I have a copy of that. Here you go. Send it over. If Jorg doesn't have it, I can assure you it does not exist. Especially since we're right in his wheelhouse with Coverdale and Whitesnake. Murray says there wasn't much difference between the EP and the album Trouble because they went into the studio to do the full album just a few months later. So the same group minus the keyboardist, they would get John Lord to replace on keyboards, and then they would go right back into the studio and work on this full album. So apparently the record company was probably happy with what they saw for sales.
Nice.
Murray says this was a turning point where it shifted from Coverdale solo to the band Whitesnake. So this was kind of the bridge between him being on his own with some backing, some recurring backing artists, and being more of an actual band. On May 1st, 1978, the band filmed a promo video for Snakebite, which is really interesting. And of course, Jorg had that for me. You can find a few of the videos on YouTube, but I've got a video here, and this is actually it's going to be the same music that we've already heard, but this is the band on just a sound stage featuring David Coverdale's Whitesnake. And it's just all them miming along to all the songs that they recorded and doing this as a promo.
I don't go looking for trouble. It's always coming my way. But I've been looking for you like the summer sun. You welcome my day.
So it's really interesting, seeing all the guys on stage just doing these songs. It starts off with Come On, and it goes into Mary around here. I'm sorry, this is Ain't No Love in the Heart of the City, of course.
Ain't no love in the heart of the city.
Looks like fun. They just kind of probably piped these in over the speakers and had the band just mime playing along.
That's pretty cool.
And I almost feel like talking about watching the EP or listening to the EP. I'd almost rather just watch this promo video because it's really cool.
Yeah.
Baby, since you've been around.
And then here we go, Bloody Mary. And then they end up finishing this song, and you don't hear all of Steal Away. They just fade out and go to credits, which is weird. There it just goes, kind of shows you the lineup of the band, who wrote
That's
the songs,
weird, yeah.
and then fades out on this. So really interesting promo video. The thing that's interesting about it is they used this video, the Snakebite video, as a promo to support another film, and they played this before that film, and that film was a softcore pornography film, which is interesting. So you have
That's interesting.
photo here of the two Davids. One is David Coverdale and the other is David Hamilton, who was, I guess, the producer or of this other film. And there they are at the premiere, and then there's David Coverdale with his wife at the time at the premiere as well. So it's interesting to just be like, okay, everybody get in the theater, we're gonna watch some softcore porn, but first
Whitesnake.
First, a 12-minute Whitesnake video, which is actually, I'm sure a great pairing. And Coverdale apparently was offered gotten some offers to appear in movies after that he turned down. You figure Coverdale's like, I don't need to be in those movies. That's my life anyway,
I was gonna say that obviously started off Whitesnake on the right foot. Even back then, being all cheeky and innuendo-y and
Yeah, David Coverdale's Whitesnake. There you
all
go.
right. Hmm.
But yeah, that's kind of the very intro and very beginnings of Whitesnake, going into that. And yeah, this, I guess maybe we were right. Maybe this is one of our shortest episodes. I think the banter between songs is probably what can draw on some of the episodes a little bit more. But this is I find this period very fascinating, where you've got Coverdale coming, just a couple years off the heels of Deep Purple and figuring out what his direction is going to be, and you see them figuring it out together and coming up with some great music in the meantime.
And you figure it had to have been a difficult time because when this came out, 78.
78, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that wasn't really the best time for straight ahead blues rock music like this
Mm-hmm.
at all. So for them to continue down this path and then kind of work at it until 84 to 87, and then finally kind of break and get a lot bigger. It took a little bit because
Mm-hmm.
like right around this time, like from 78 to like 80, disco was really big. Rock was not really a thing, like people, that wasn't as popular. There were obviously people doing it. I mean, you had some great bands that kind of kept they didn't let the disco thing creep in, like AC/DC is one of them that I can think of. A lot of punk stuff was coming out, but how much more stuff, even the Aerosmith stuff at the time wasn't their best stuff, but they were still like straight ahead rock. So but it was tough. It must have been tough for Coverdale and like trying to break through with a new band around this time too. So wonder if that could have contributed to kind of them flopping around.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, it was just kind of I'm sure a lot of stuff was uncertain, and we know that he had taken like that 1 year off because he still had a contract or whatever it was, and had to, they had to work. He basically couldn't perform or any of that. So, it's a very,
Right.
very weird time. Very weird time for sure. Yeah, and then we've got the Bobby Bland version here of the Ain't No Love in the Heart of the City. I feel like we'd be remiss if we didn't preview that. What do you think?
Yeah, can hear a little bit.
Why not give it a shot here?
See how it stacks up.
See how it stacks up to the Whitesnake version. I mean, I'm fairly familiar. Like, I feel like I've heard this one just as many times as the Whitesnake one for some reason, but it's not downloaded for me here, so maybe we won't listen to it. There was an error. Okay, well, let's try it again. But yeah, it's a really interesting track. So I can just drag over the YouTube video. We can watch it this way. So here we go. Ain't no love in the heart. Oh wait. Oh, it worked. It worked. Ain't No Love in the Heart by Bobby Bland, and this is from the album Dreamer.
How old is it?
74. So yeah, it was fairly.
Oh,
yeah, it was fairly new.
so it's him covering a recent song. Wasn't even that old.
Yeah, it was. It would have been fairly fairly new at the time. So it's good stuff.
It's a contemporary cover. That's even cooler.
Yep. Oh, now it's not working. So,
hey, what are you doing?
I know. We should have just ended it right there, but instead I had to have this.
We still can if you will. We still can.
We still can end it right there. Bobby Bland, Dreamer. That's a great album cover. It's got him it's just, like a guy wearing like a really cool suit on the cover of an album, just sitting there smoking, just on the album cover.
Oh,
I love it. Like
Say a guy wearing a really cool suit, unlike the Glenn Hughes Christmas album.
this looks like he knew he was going to be he was going to be participating in a photo shoot. It wasn't a surprise to him the way it was to Glenn. But yeah, it's just like, like just the guy like just standing there like it's like, hey, you're doing my album cover today? Well, fine, but I'm not going to put down the cigarette. Like I got things to do here. But here we go. Bobby Bland, ain't no love in the heart of the city.
Oh.
That's great.
That's fantastic. Oh.
Ain't no love in the heart of the city.
Oh, sorry. So the tempo's a little faster.
Yeah, it's just about a minute shorter, this version.
Ain't no love in the show of the pity.
But man, what a great voice.
Ain't no love, 'cause you ain't around. When you were mine, oh, I was feeling so good.
Great, like kind of Motown sounding style to it.
This old neighborhood.
I mean, you can clearly see where Coverdale got his influence from, because he was influenced by a lot of singers like this, and influenced by like Otis Redding and other vocalists like that as well, like those kind of Motown singers. So it's like really also a lot of people don't think of, and makes Coverdale so unique as a singer, makes him so good.
And this guy was born in 1930. So this guy would have been a full 20 years older than Coverdale.
Wow.
Passed away in 2013, 83 years old.
Every place that I go, oh, it seems so strange. Without you there, things have changed.
This to me is like, this is my wheelhouse. Like I could listen to music like this all day, no problems.
Another teardrop fall in my lonely room. I said I ain't no love.
He has a compilation called I Pity the Fool. That's awesome. You think Mr. T got it from him?
In the heart of town.
Could have.
Ain't no love. It ain't
Yeah, it was a song in the 1960s, one of his singles, I Pity the Fool.
you ain't around.
A soul blues song originally recorded by Bobby Bland. If you go to the Wikipedia entry for I Pity the Fool, it says, this article is about the song. For the catchphrase, see Mr. T.
Oh, that's great.
Ain't no love in the heart of the city.
Listen to that.
Ain't no love in the heart of town. Ain't no love, it sure is a pity. Ain't no love, 'cause you ain't around. 'Cause you ain't around. Ain't no love.
It's great that, I mean, obviously Coverdale and the Whitesnake guys have a fair amount of R&B and the soul in them, but it sounds more like a rock song, and it sounds Coverdale's got that delivery like he has on Blind Man or whatever, where it's just really, you can just hear him giving his all to the song. It's great that they would hear this, and once again, like I said, it's a very, very faithful cover, but yet
It's really different.
yeah, they bridge that gap so well of just making it be super faithful, but yet also making it sound their own, which is really hard to do. So many people do not nail it, or make covers that just sound cheesy or just sound half-assed. And this is it's just amazing what they did with this one.
Yeah, I mean, this was, both versions really have merit. Like, I mean, this one was just it's almost like they're two different songs. Like, if you want to hear like the Motown soulful, like get that kind of vibe, then you listen to this song. But if you want to get some of that, but hear it more in like a ballady, modern, at the time, like blues rock vibe, then you listen to the Whitesnake version. So even though, like, I get what you're saying, even though it's the same song, it's like two different songs. Like I would not rate this one lower or say that it's inferior at all.
No, they're
You
both
know,
great. I'd give this one a 5 too, honestly.
I mean,
It's
I'd say they're equally as good, because it's like, you know, this is like the original and the other, because for the exact reason that we said is that they're the same song, but they're like two like really different, but they both have that integrity, you know?
Yeah, and good songwriting is good songwriting. You know, you can twist it whatever way you want, but if it's a well written song, it works really well. And
You know,
we'll
it makes
hear
me
that.
think of it makes me think of kind of the almost the opposite way. Like I don't know, you might be aware of this one, is the Al Green, I think it was, did a cover of "I Want to Hold Your Hand" by the Beatles.
I don't know if I know the Al Green one.
And I mean, you know, the Beatles version is like that,
Of course.
that really, you know, early 60s pop version or whatever. And then you hear Al Green's and it's like, you'd think it was an Al Green song.
Right.
And then like halfway through, you're just like, oh shit, that's the Beatles. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
and it's actually really good. And you know that I'm not like crazy about the Beatles, but I do really enjoy a good Al Green song. So.
It's hard to disagree with Al Green. Haven't heard anything by Al Green that I didn't like, that's for sure.
But anyways, that's kind of what this makes me think of a little bit, when you have two like almost like different genres, but they're kind of the same.
Yeah, for sure.
Like the bridge the gap, as you said.
Yeah, but anyway, that is the Snakebite EP. Some really, really good stuff. And yeah, I guess we'll be back at you next week with something new that I don't think we've even figured out yet.
Don't blow the magic, Nate.
We have it all. We actually have a tremendous amount of stuff mapped out, but next week is a question mark. So there you go.
Yeah, we just don't know what.
Yeah, we'll see. All right. Well, thanks
Okay.
for joining us, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Have a good night.
Thank you for listening to the Deep Purple Podcast. If you like what you hear and would like more episodes in the future, please donate on Patreon to support the show. You can also give us a rating on iTunes to help new people discover the show. You can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook for show updates. See deeppurplepodcast.com for more details. Thank you for listening.